Welcome to the weekly moon cycle, and I have some special guests today. Hello, special guests.
Hey.
Hi.
So I have both Refocus from Refocus and Sandra. What do you want to be called? You want to just be called Sandra?
Yeah, I'm just called Sandra, yeah.
Because your channel is Sandra Massey.
My Sandra is Sandra Massey too, so it's all Sandra all around, Sandra Massey.
Okay.
I didn't create a alias, yeah. Maybe you ladies can help me out.
An SM.
SM.
It's Sandra. No, you should take your time because old girl over there is still trying to figure it out. She was Lilani today. What's your name? Lilani? I don't know what it is.
Ask me questions. I'll tell you no lies.
Call me Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon. You want to be Sailor Moon or do you want to?
No, you can't call me Sandra. Sandra Massey from Sandra Massey. Amazing Amazon product reviews.
I know that's right, girl.
I know that's right.
And we have Sandra Massey from Sandra Massey's amazing Amazon product reviews. Yay! Okay, so a special treat as they both are into tarot, intuitive reading. They have their own different backgrounds in this kind of esoteric work. So it's always a treat to spend time, and plus they're my sisters. So that's always fun. So let's get started. Okay, I will simply say that we do have this Venus in Capricorn in retrograde popping off at the end of the week on the 19th. I've been calling it the season of the X's. I've been saying, can't nobody catch me, ha ha ha. But it also is, especially with Venus and Capricorn energy, it gives this opportunity to analyze, well, like, what do we think about the concept of marriage? What do we think about the concept of ideal partnership? Like, it gives people an opportunity to redefine what they feel like is like that union on a kind of like changing the status quo kind of thing, and everything else that pop up. So, hi, sisters.
Hi.
Yes, how are you?
Good. So do we have, as we start, do you all have any particular process that you like to do before you start, whether it is personal or whether it is like you're pulling something or doing something for someone else? Like, do you have a process of like, oh, I like to say this, or I like to do this, or I want to burn that?
I wouldn't say it kind of is a process, I guess. I can't say it's not a process. I have particular decks that I use for myself. And if I start shuffling the deck and I don't get that like feeling, like that feeling, I don't know. I don't be feeling it. I'll just go on to the next deck. And I have a couple of them that are just mine until I get like a better feeling, I guess to say. And for someone else, I think we talked about it before that if I get all reverses, I just start over. I'm like, my bad. I'm having a lot of energy outbursts today.
And why don't you use your individual decks on other people? Like, you have some decks that you only use on yourself. Why is that?
Yeah, because I have a connection with those decks. When I first got them, I never did a reading for anyone else with them. I've always used them for myself. When I did my cleansings of them, I did it with myself in mind. I usually put them with stones that pertain to me. I'm like charging it to my own energy, I guess to say, instead of charging it to an outward energy, I'm charging it to myself. So it reads better for myself, because I did at one time try to do it I'm like, let me just pull a card for someone else. It doesn't. It's like, look here, you said I was for you and you're cheating. So I was like, you're right.
And you look like a cheater to me.
Don't cheat on the cards.
Yeah, you can't cheat on them. So I was like, my bad. I just don't. So now I just stick with, I have some that I carry around with me a lot that I like never do readings for myself. They don't read well for me. That means I know it's going to be really good for other people. And then some of them, I mean, sometimes I could do self readings, but they're not my decks. So, it just is what it is.
I feel you. Sandra, do you have anything that you do?
Well, it depends. If I'm doing just I want to just check on the energy of the day or something like more, less serious, I would say, I would just pull the card. Maybe like to have an incense or some Palo Santo cleansing before anything happening. Mm-hmm. But if it's something a little bit more serious, like if somebody's having an issue and asks me to open the cards and I know they expecting for something, for a message, for a meaning on it, I do like to do some mental preparation with some Umbanda prayers to get on that. I'm sorry, I have a cat that's coming through. And I like to do, some Umbanda praying, especially to try to match what the energy is. So, if it's a question about something that the person is having something locked and they want to open those ways, right? And they want to know what path to take to open those ways. I focus in one Orisha or another Orisha to bring that energy up.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely helps because, as you know, you got me out of a bind, or you told me what to do anyway, and it definitely worked out. So I was just like, it worked out so well. It cleansed somebody out of my life.
You see, it really does be working. The Orishas are, like, to me, one of the most powerful entities out there. That they really do the connection,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I truly believe them.
Nice. So are you all, do you all have any cards that you're pulling now? Like any just thing, like, what's your feeling for the session as a whole, or like what's coming up for this week? What's your first cards? I'm saying what's your first cards, but I can literally just say what my first card is.
Let me.
So I got the 9 of Wands, and the feeling that I'm getting from this is kind of like the way that it's showing up for me is kind of like a busyness, kind of also like a opportunity, but it's more of like putting in, it's not really a lot of thinking going on with that. Also not like you haven't really seen this into fruition type of thing for the week, but a lot of things. And I kind of look at opportunities as like, look, something can show up in a person's life as like an opportunity or as like a challenge. And it just depends on how the person is perceiving it. So like things may show up like that feel like, oh, kind of easygoing or maybe a little bit more difficult, but it's really kind of how you look at it. Like that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm also getting like, I like how this deck has this cute little like Polaroid one.
It is cute.
So it's called, as I turn it around, the Polaroid. The Polaroid.
Oh, that is so cute.
But it's giving me kind of like, let yourself shine, And as Summer Walker said, she's over it and she's still over it. Letting these things kind of lay to rest. Obviously, it probably has to do with things that have to do with other people when we're looking at this Venus going into retrograde. But it could also just be your internal feelings and motivations of how you do things. Just letting it go to rest. And then we have this King of Pentacles, and I really like how he's cleansing. So it's like a cleansing out of the energy going on. What do you all have?
It's interesting because right before we started, I had pulled the 10 of Wands and I was like, I wasn't sure if it was energy for this, but then what do I pull next is my Queen of Swords, which unfortunately I put my 10 of Wands away, but I got my Queen of Swords with my Destiny deck, which is telling me when I followed it up with the Ace of Cups, it's like, how do you get to this Ace of Cups? How do you get to filling your cup? Creating that partnerships and things like that. Because when you think what comes after the Ace of Cups, the 2 of Cups with the, that's going straight into a fulfilling, I guess, happy relationships that starts with the boundaries and being strong. And,
I love the 2 of Cups. I really I like it more than like the lovers, like, how you have the lovers card, but the 2 of Cups to me actually represents like a solid partnership.
Because the lovers for me, it's like where it could go wrong also. Codependency and like relying on someone that you don't really need to, like it can go wrongly, like it's not automatically, it's 2 together, but what else could happen when you are two together? Kind of how I feel about this soulmate thing, like the
twin flames. How do you feel, Sandra? How do you feel about twin flames, Sandra?
Twin flame. I don't know a lot about it. But what I would know about it is that you're supposed to be with them for learning and developing, and then supposedly you make it to your soulmate and then you'll be with your soulmate, So
I like that better.
That's what I read about, and I'm not too familiar with it, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. But I was in this group, this twin flame group, and it was just so much drama. And what I saw was a lot of people that are in really abusive relationships, and they're trying to make excuses for that with that energy, And Look, I think I'm very for your personal decision. If you are happy in an abusive relationship, so go for it. But I don't think that if you were, it would be in the internet, like, hey,
It's so
my
funny.
twin
That's
flame
exactly
beat
how I
me every
feel.
day, and I'm like, girl, this is not your twin flame. Just leave. It's just being beat every day by somebody. Just go.
You got to go. So, you got to go. Because the way that I get it is that people be like, oh, I met this person, because the way I heard it described was they bring out the best or the worst in you. So I'm like, I don't know if you want to be with someone who brings out equally the best and the worst in you. It's going to be up and down. You might want something stable. But people often ask me about like, oh, wanting to know my twin flame, this tumultuous journey, this, and that. And it's like, is that really what you want from love? Like, I don't think like,
right.
Just let it be balanced. It doesn't have to be all of that up and down. And people want so badly, like if you all notice when, someone, they get their heart broken or like end of a relationship where they really want somebody, they're coming to you and they want you to say, to confirm to them, it's going to work out, but maybe it shouldn't work.
No matter what, it's going to work out. And sometimes it's not.
Look at this guy's face. Like, he's like, why?
He is
I was like, how I feel about twin flames.
And I like that 5 of Swords from that, because look at the background. Look at the back. Like, there's a person jumping for joy in the background.
Yep. Like,
exactly. Look, it's so exciting. Yeah, because, I think that people are, when they're in a relationship, I do think that there is a place for somebody to bring the worst of you. I do think that, because you need to go inside of your dark side and you need to see what you're capable of. And before you expose this energy to the outside, to the other people, it's much more comforting to have someone where you can be your true self, dark side, light side, and all. So that person can help you work through those impulses, that dark energy. But if that person is only bringing the dark and the bad, and you're like, then that's something wrong. Then it's time to say goodbye. And, lack of attention and love, it's not you working through yourself. If you want to be embraced on that relationship and that person really loves you, they will be with you fully. It's not like, oh no, I'm this person just left me for 3 years, but that person just want a quick booty call and is calling you back after 3 years because they probably broke up with somebody. So
yep. This 2 of Swords, I always think about the hard decision. You see the girl has the blindfold on. She acting like she don't know. She knows. She in this group talking about, I think this is my twin flame. No, honey, you know. You got a decision to make, and take that blindfold off.
Also, what's up with the fact that people don't like to be alone? And I don't mean like, I think it's okay if you want someone to give you attention, but like some people really don't like the idea of being alone, like just enjoying parts of themselves. And I think listening to you two, especially since you all are like mothers and how much it like, you know how much you give for your children, that like you sacrifice like your own kind of things that you want to do to find balance. I just kind of find it interesting that there are a lot of people who are, even if they have kids or they're pre-kids or something like that, where they don't want to be alone. And it's like, I kind of feel like, I don't know, I just feel like this time is precious,
Definitely.
Like, yeah.
And it's kind of like a cultural thing that everyone thinks. I think particularly women, we can never be alone. Like, women don't want to be alone. We want to be stuck to somebody.
It's so funny because I got the Hermit upside down, and it's the conflict of being in isolation. And that, sometimes people will give out their best just to have somebody there and have that fear, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard. But you know what? I think that with age, that gets better. And I say that because my mom, she was a person like that, right? She would be in the worst relationships, like, she's a Cancer, like, she would be like attached to like she would carry a red flag basket with her. But now that she's 72 now, she's an old lady, none of those bad relationships, thanks to Jesus, worked out. So she's on her own, and she comes to me often and she says, I did not know that solitude and being by myself, it was so great. It's just so good now. I do what I want and I have time to be by myself. And I'm pretty sure that, she would like to have somebody, but she also found out that being alone is not as bad as people make it seem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
everything.
What card did you pull up? You pulled the card.
It was the Knight of Pentacles.
Mm.
Look at that. So I like this particular card. I like how it shows, like, when I see a horse, I always think of like freedom almost. Like
same thing.
It's like a freedom. And then using that Knight of Pentacles energy, you think about something that's like, what can you get from it? What is this freedom leading you to, I guess to say. So I was just on my way to pull another card to see what that was.
So I pulled up this crocodile and I pulled up this grizzly bear, but I like the way that it's depicted in such a way that it's like the fiery side or the passion, like it is equally as important, like especially looking at it from like, love or just dealing with people. It doesn't have to be a romantic situation. It's like dealing with people in general. Like we should build ourselves up the confidence of like, if somebody talks to you crazy, that, crocodile or like the grizzly bear, where it's like, if you're at peace, nobody should wake this bear up. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody is like, trying to poke the bear, people should be mindful of boundaries. I'm getting like straight up boundaries vibe, that like these beautiful things that sometimes I think even women, not always women, but women can feel this way of like having to be available all the time or having to, take care of everybody else, when it's just like one of those things where it's like, no, people need to understand that if they want you in their life, as any, gender neutral, whatever, like if they want you in their life, that they have to like respect your boundaries. And they also have to understand that it's like, they can't just use you up. And a lot of people are in people's lives simply to use them up.
Amen to that. I think that most people, right? Like, it's so hard to find people that are genuinely interested in you and building that relationship with you. When I see those cards that you pulled, though, I think a lot about endurance too.
I just pulled a Queen of Swords again. I mean, she's like, back, give me 50 feet.
Give me some perspective on the difference between the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords.
I don't know why, when I think of the Queen of Swords, I think of her more as like, okay, maybe because I'm a girl. I'm all about that feminine, that RBF energy of like, you can't shake her, like, whereas the King of Swords, he more plays into what you expect a King of Swords to be. But the Queen of Swords is like going against that, what you think of as like a woman almost, like, but more what I would like to embrace as a woman. Like, that's who I want to be.
The master finesser.
Yes.
And like I love watching all of these like, historical fiction or period pieces or things like that, like where they like depict like how cunning women are, you know what I'm saying? Like where it's like they had to make such strategic moves. And then we have Temperance. Speak on that, Sandra.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, no, it's a Temperance card. So, balance. We have to have the balance. Hooking to what you said is to find the balance between being available all the time for people and having our own time. And being what other people think,
So how do people win? Not like, oh, you won, period. No, like how do they do these things? How do they find balance? How do they find peace? How do they do that?
So I think it's a very personal journey for everyone because everybody is so different. For me is to know how to pick my battles. I have a moon in Aries, so I can be like very confrontational and like enjoy the good fight, Mm-hmm. But the problem is sometimes I don't know when to give up on that fight. And I just keep on fighting, and it's so hard to like let go. And when you let go of things that you cannot win and accept that, then there's a winning in it, wincing it. because, you can't win everything. There's no way that everything in the universe, because otherwise I feel like if everybody had everything that they wanted and everything was perfect, you would never grow. It would just be like, so spoiled because everything just goes so well for you. So sometimes you just gotta let go of that fight. Like, you don't have to have the last word. You don't have to have the upper hand on every situation. Learn how to win, to lose, and then you win something from learning how to move forward. At least for me, it
like
saves
that.
you a lot of stress, lots of stress.
I like that because I feel like it kind of brings up that like really high spiritual esoteric concept of like, what is the purpose of life? Like, is it to have everything that you want at all times, or is it the growth? Like, we're all here growing, and like, as you were talking about the individual journeys, like, some people choose to grow with like kind of very small, like they'll deal with someone, like kind of like the twin flame group you were in. Like, some people want that to be a part of their journey. Other people want freedom and independence and other things, or like wanting to live a non-conventional path, or whatever it is that they want to do. But I do think everything is purposeful. I couldn't imagine life without the opportunity of challenge. Not that I want to be like, fucked up over here. I'm just saying that, I don't know. It's just, it's like you can't appreciate, or I can't appreciate things unless, I saw, oh, wow, I saw what the other side was. And I can appreciate it more in a way that I don't think I would have been able to appreciate it had I not experienced it. That's my thought.
Oh no, and I think that you were spot on. This, like, on my overview, it's very similar to that. You can never appreciate the good if you haven't gone through difficulty. The wealth does not feel the same if you did not have that bumpy road in the way. It feels good to build something, and to build something and get to the end of it and look at what you built. But you can't. Building things are not easy. Manifesting things are not easy. Bringing things from a plane where they don't exist yet and materialize those things, it's a work. It's something that you have to put work in it. And then when you look at that materialization of what you thought, it's wonderful, but it takes that work, and you need to put the work in.
I think a lot of people get caught up in the journey, like the whatever like tradition they want to, like be in. They get caught up in going up, like kind of going up the chakras from the root all the way to the crown. Like, you want to go underneath the veil, but then it's like, that's purposeful. So if you bring that wisdom, you can bring it back down to manifest. But people don't want to, or they're so afraid to live life and go through things that like they will get the wisdom to bring forth something, but they want to stay there because like inside, those energetic shifts are instant, but to bring things out into the material, that takes time. And I think a lot of times people don't want to go through the work of having to, deal with themselves internally as they're bringing something into life, which takes time. I mean, you know how long it takes to incubate a baby,
I think that ties in general to this realm that we are in. Like, a lot of people don't want to acknowledge the darker sides, the harder times, the tougher aspects. They want to freak out if they see some, any card they don't like, a sword, a tower, a death. Like they it's, to me, that's a lot of, how can I avoid this negative and go straight to the top? Like, I just want to jump to the top layer, but you can't jump to the top of the mountain. You got to climb the mountain. You will be sweaty and you will not be happy while you're climbing. But that doesn't mean when you get there, it's still worth it. You look back and you're like, you gained something from it. There was a gain to be had.
Yeah.
People are just terrified of the death card. Like, oh, I'm going to die. No, you're not. And, not all deaths come to be bad. Cycles have to close.
It's my very favorite card.
I swear, so many people are like, oh, I would love to have the tarot open for me, but I'm afraid to have the death card. I'm like, well, everything comes to an end. Everything comes to death. You have to embrace death. Death inside of you, death outside of you. Yeah, like, yeah. I pulled this was what one of hers suggestion that I actually went through and got it, and I love this deck. It's like the most beautiful deck.
It is
The
really,
Witches of Legend. It's so beautiful, and I feel
yeah.
like so meaningful and connected to like the feminine. It's just wonderful. And I pull Persephone, and that's what half death, half alive. Cycles. You go through this cycle of death, and you reborn again. And she brings a lot of that. She didn't even know she was gonna end up being like that, and so much happened to her life, and she embraced that, bringing death and bringing life.
They have like a story of like Chiron, which is kind of like one of those like celestial bodies out there, kind of like asteroids, whatever. I don't think technically it is an asteroid, but anyway, it's out there, and so like it represents the wounded healer. And so it's places where you, in your natal chart, where like you can help other people, but you're always hurt there. And so like the story of Chiron is that like they had an incurable thing. They were suffering, but then they could cure other people. And all they really wanted was like death, but it would come in the story, the mythology, but like that's what they wanted. But at the same time, they could help and they could heal others. But sitting there and healing others of something that you can't heal yourself. I mean, it puts a lot of perspective. Like the first level is just like, this sucks. But I think there's also a second level of talking about like the importance of death. Like in this example of like someone is suffering or this energy is suffering, or it just like that rebirthing process that we have every month or every year or every, couple of years. It's important to let go, to let things die, to let things end. I know I personally feel like I've been having like this kind of rebirthing process. I feel like this new year coming up, I feel like on a totally different wave and shift. And I don't think it's because of just ending a long-term relationship. I think that, the shifts of even me leaving like the working world and going out and doing my own thing and like building and all of that stuff, like it's putting me on a different place where it's just like, I don't even feel recognizable to who I was before. And before it was like a little scary of like, who am I? Who was I? Da, 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 da. Now I feel like it's like, oh, wow, I'm stepping into something new and I really like it.
As you were talking, I'm like pulling these cards. I got the 5 of Swords, this is a kind of a scary card. Something is about to turn upside down, basically, and it made me think about when you have to let go of something. It's just the card that you're scared of. You don't want to see it. You're like, oh my gosh, like I know something is about to go down, but what does it lead to? It leads to reward. It leads to something fulfilling coming for you, Take the pain so that you can, it's like spicy food. Y'all like spicy food. I don't understand it, but it tastes good because it's something different. Hey.
I don't know if that's it for the spicy food. It adds to it. It's a flavor enhancer.
No, it's a
hot sauce and your fried fish.
Pain level, actually. It does have something. It has when you guys have a minute, search for TED Ed. Why do people eat spicy food? And explains all the process of how it's actually something that is heating up your body, and you like just feel some pain from it too.
Oh, the science of spice.
Yes, it's pretty cool. And I didn't know none of that, but it's really nice. It's fun.
Y'all crazy. I'm not eating nothing spicy.
It's so yum though. Like I'm not a super crazy spicy person, though you can grow your resistance to it. Like you can eat more spicy all the time, because friends, when I got here to the United States, I didn't eat anything spicy. I was like, no spicy for me at all. As I started eating buffalo wings, which is still there, I started just like embracing a little bit more of the spice. And I feel like I'm very very adventurous when it comes down to food. I think that experience food is a way of experience the world. So I'm like, let me try everything. And I didn't like it at first, but now I do. So maybe one day I'm going to be
drunken noodle very recently that I always hear is so good, and I'm like, it's spicy, so I did it. But the one place said we're gonna make it 1.5 spice for you. So I was like, all right, I'll try it. And it was, for me, it was very spicy, but everyone else said it wasn't that spicy. But I was like, oh, this is good. It was good. I had it with some tea and it was fine.
To jump back into the like moon cycle, like what's coming up, from Sunday all the way to the next Sunday. So we have this waxing gibbous energy. So last week, or on Saturday, we had this first quarter energy, which we were talking about had to do with, you're reaching those first obstacles or those first opportunities. Now this week, this waxing gibbous is building up to that Sunday, which is a full moon. It's a full, so it's important because it's a full moon in Cancer. It's also the day that Venus goes retrograde in Capricorn. And also Venus and Pluto are right on top of each other. So whenever Pluto and Venus do stuff together, it kind of feels like this kind of hard realization, because Pluto is Scorpio energy. So the deep healing, kind of to the theme we've just been talking about, this deep healing comes from, as like Sandra was talking about, like looking at the dark side or looking at the side of you that needs healing. Sometimes you got to go in the basement, clean your basement out, but you're like, man, this looks horrible, and you just want to keep on closing it. But then you open up the door, and if you really sit in it and like sit with that, like that's what the energy that's going to be coming up. I don't take it as a negative thing. I take it as a very cleansing thing, and to also be mindful of who you're around in your energy. Because if you're feeling in a very vulnerable state, you don't want to be around people that you don't feel comfortable, with that vulnerability. But that's kind of like the energy that's going in the week. Do you all feel anything as well?
I mean, I'm kind of going along. I feel exactly how you're feeling. I pulled the Hangman, which, I mean, even though the Hangman is sometimes seen as like an indecision thing, I kind of also look at it almost in a way to think, taking the time to like actually weigh your decisions and think about how you're going to go forward. Just because you're hanging there, what are you going to do while you're hanging and thinking about it? Like actually make some good choices and think about what's the best way to go forward. I also pulled the Knight of Swords.
I like this card for like this Knight of Swords.
I like this energy in this card. Actually, I really like the energy here.
Nice. So, I like the art on that card.
I know this.
Is this a deck where if you lay them all out, it tells it's one continuous picture? Is that this?
No, that's the Prisma Visions to each deck. That one is really cool because honestly, there's a story that starts with the Fool and goes all the way through. You can actually tell a story if you lay out the cards and go through each one in order. And so it was cool that they did that. That's how it is. Honestly, that's how it is. And so when you pull a card, if you're like, how does this card apply to me? And you can't really figure out what it is, I often will look at the card that precedes it or goes after it, because that can have some meaning into what it's playing into, because it's going into this. So what does that tell you? Kind of energy when I'm reading.
Any final words, ladies, for the weekly moon cycle reading? Because we're going to go into Patreon. We're going to keep this going. But any final words for this weekly moon cycle?
I don't know. I'm trying to see how this energy is gonna be playing my week, because I have Venus in Capricorn too. So I'm like, am I gonna feel extra sensitive, or
your natal Venus is in Capricorn?
Yeah, it is.
Ooh.
And my North Node is in Cancer.
Is your North Node in Cancer?
My North Node? No, my Lilith. My Lilith is in Cancer.
So I'm actually about to go to a workshop in I think it's like a month or two that talks about the Black Lilith and talks more into that. It's really I think it's going to be fascinating. But yours is in Cancer?
Mine is in Cancer. Yeah.
Mine is in Capricorn. That's interesting.
That's interesting because my Venus is actually in Capricorn. So it kind of, for me, it's kind of like a bumpy road because I'm a Pisces sun, but Capricorn Venus. So it's kind of I feel like it kind of grounds a little bit.
That makes sense of why you married a Capricorn.
I love Capricorn. It's I do have a lot of preference for earth elements than water elements. And I just feel that's because I need grounding as well. So I look for that grounding elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I would just, if I involve myself only with water elements, we aren't going to go anywhere. We're just gonna like hug and love and cry and complain and have emotions, you know. And I feel like the earth element just like keeps me going and it keeps me motivated. So
wild energy. That's what I think about when I that like wild energy.
Well, I love that. Thank you so much, Sandra Massey from Sandra Massey's amazing Amazon product reviews, and Refocus from Refocus for coming and stopping by to do the weekly moon cycle reading. Again, I will convince them to come back because it's always a good time to be with my sister. And it's always fun because they do bring such a wealth of knowledge from different like backgrounds, traditions, even their own curiosity for the things that they do, that it just provides so much. I know I get a lot from hanging out with them. Well, thank you, ladies, for stopping by.
You're welcome.
Very nice.
It was so nice.
Okay, bye.